Hello there, this is Cookies. Doing a few more trades with Pythium for his cap defense. Ooh, we found a Dream Collection, which is one Glamour, one Pearl. But otherwise, I think this should be a pretty calm turn compared to the last couple of turns. We do see a fight in Iron Range. So here we get to see Meme Man, the Asura, and he's going to go ahead and jump into combat. Has a tremendous amount of kit. So he's got 3 hats, including a fear hat, morale hat with fire resist, and a protection hat. Also has Red Dragon scale mail, so he's got 15 fire res, boots of the messenger for some reinvigoration, girdle of might for more reinvigoration. So he's up at 6, 2 Mangashos of parrying, and a race sword. So pretty spooky pretender. Also has the paths to do Winds of Death, Wrathful Skies, and a lot of big blood magic for helping break end further into blood. So as a reminder, it does have Fear 5 from the Fair Hat, so he's going to route squads pretty quickly. And indeed, that's the case here. So it takes care of all these horse tribe. Let's see, true. Oh, wow, we found a lot of sites. So Singing Tree, 10,000 Things, Lilium Vale. I think Ballin found the 10,000 Things. Alright, then we've got a battle between Abyssia and Shinyama, another small Abyssian raiding forest, this time with some Smolder Ghosts. Always at risk of having his mage sniped, but it doesn't happen this time. So successful, loses 1 Smolder Ghost. In Witch Haven, you see the Scalarian army moving out, and it's just a few retreated troops that didn't have any leadership. Okay. So loses a little bit of stuff, but pretty good price to pay for killing 3 mammoths. Then we've got Machaca attacking Independence down here. So getting the declaration, or I guess we're still kind of negotiating here, but because I rotated some of my troops back, like, because I was about to go down in here, but because I didn't want to lose these mannequins right before a Whirlwind of Anger, I opted not to go down here. So Machaca is going to take advantage and take these provinces. So let me just, yeah. Wrathful Skies and really big nature. So my guess is maybe he's going for a Gift of Nature's bounty in game, and in the mid game he's got Wrathful Skies. Pretty scary though. And then we go ahead and we attack some independents in Vath. So we're gonna go take care of these dogs. They made a solid effort to get our commander. Let's see. And one of our panics gets an assassination attempt, but he should be able to handle a long dead, as long as he doesn't do that. Okay. We get a bunch of tax in a wasteland. We get an Etten. We get an Earth Reader. So this is pretty cool. So this guy's an Earth Mage. He can do a little bit of Earth site searching and some cheaper forging, because he doesn't have a lot of research himself, or he's got less than a dryad. Specifically a dryad hag or a panic apostate, because the normal dryads don't get earth. So having him do some of that earth forging is pretty efficient. Also, our pretenders wake up this turn, so our trinity. So some of the first things we're doing, we're forging boots of stone and lightweight cataphract barding. So we're doing a lot of forging now with the new Calum player, because he's planning out his cap defense. So he's doing a lot of trades with us. He's going to trade us air gems, which we don't have a great income of. And we're going to spend some of our nature and death to forge this gear. Now, I think the cataphract barding might have also been air, but he's paying for a lot of this stuff in air, so we're going to come out ahead on air. Yeah, Girdle of Might also getting made. Boots of the Messenger, another Girdle of Might. So lots of forging. And we're continuing to amass forces for this invasion. And because we had moved stuff out of Abyss, we couldn't go for this. I mean, there's a chance we could bump. There's a chance mannequins could kill this in a bump. But we end up not pushing things down there. Now, we are moving some mannequins back underground. These are a bunch of harpy mannequins. I mostly use them for bodyguard duty or really low security patrolling, I guess, or like places I don't think will be attacked. We are moving some stuff back to Asphodel. Might be to just kind of like re-script it. I don't know. Maybe we're moving back to patrol a bit. Still waiting for this Triton attack. It's just taking forever to happen. But yeah, otherwise just a lot of micro. Our research is gotten another huge boost, so we're up to 1350 for research after that big glamour gem trade. And other than that, we're continuing to get ready. I believe we're also wanting to forge a kit for Zan so that he'll be ready, but we have a couple of turns before the nap ticks down, so we're going to wait before we forge that for him. And yeah, just kind of like a turn at peace, which is pretty nice. So I'll go ahead and jump into the next turn. Yeah, we're Calum bought our Storm Armor as well. So yeah, I'll see you in turn 38. All right, so I've got turn 38, and you can see all the gems flowing in from the trades that we're doing. Do a little bit of site searching. We don't find much. And then just a few battles. So we've got a Shinyama army attacking a bunch of barbarians. All right, it's very effective. Machaca's Pretender going after the Sinos. Looks like he nabbed the leadership. Then Scaleria moves on to Calum's cap, but we're organizing that cap defense. And because this Calum player is willing to kind of work with me and they seem pretty active, I'm not going to vulture them. I think it's fun to play with those kinds of players. So I'm going to keep trading with them, see what we can put together. And then we've got Shinyama attacking Abyssia. Oh, they actually get the Warlord. Okay. And then we get a couple of gem events. All right, so this turn, we're making earth boots and forging a winged helmet. Also a barkskin amulet. You can see all the stuff that we're sending out, ring of regen, 2 rings of regen, a bunch of other stuff. And I believe, and I think what happened last turn, which is why the army was kind of moving out, was when Nidavellir, Machaka, and I ended up coming to an agreement. So the agreement is because Nidavellir really did not want to get invaded, and I have a feeling that I would have done really well in that war. But I also really didn't want to fight Machaka. I wasn't really willing to give up ground to Machaka, so we came up with a sort of white piece. But I wanted some freedom of action to do other stuff. So the piece is, yeah, we're gonna have peace until turn 60. Now the reason we're doing until turn 60 is that gives Machaka and Nidavellir time to finish off Pythium and then also fight a war against Scaleria. Because I was becoming increasingly concerned with Scaleria. I have a pretty bad matchup with Scaleria. And the reason why I say that is the Foul Vapor's performance in Agartha was really poor. And Rigor Mortis isn't as good anymore because it has an MR check. So the two things you would normally kind of do as Asphodel to counter a Scalarian army, which is Foul Vapors and Rigor Mortis, you can't really do or do as effectively as you used to do in the past. They're going to get a lot more turns of action. It could be like 15, 20 turns of Horde of Skeletons. That's not going to be good. And meanwhile, the Horde of Skeletons is going to do phenomenal work killing your mannequins. So I'm not interested in that fight. So really trying to support Calum here because I'm hoping Calum can start to turn it around. I am willing to come up through the caves and attack Summerlands if needed. But I was also prepping to vulture Calum if the cap defense went poorly. So that's why I'm deployed more in the south and deploying more in the south. And I'm hoping with a long piece that these two will feel confident to go ahead and attack Scaleria, knowing that I'm not going to backstab them for quite some time. We still have an app 3. So the minimum we can start fighting is turn 63. And that pretty much just leaves Ind and Shiniyama as my other two neighbors. Ind could definitely attack me. They don't seem interested in taking this throne off of Shiniyama. But Shiniyama is busy still trying to win their war with Abyssia. They are winning. It's just been kind of grindy. So how do I feel about this piece? I think I do want to make it to the late game on Asphodel. Sorry, my chair keeps kind of sinking. I should probably get a new one. But Asphodel, yeah, I want to get to the late game on Asphodel because I've got some interesting plans that I want to do. I am pretty scared of Firestorm. Firestorm counters a lot of the stuff I think that Asphodel can do. It forces Asphodel into a doom stack of most of their sacred troops and maybe like high region stuff like Lamias that we saw in the Lucid Shiniyama series. But if that doom stack takes too much attrition or it dies, then you're toast as a nation. All you're left with are mannequins. So I'm trying to get up enough in tech to get to some of those other answers that I'm hoping will help. And we'll see if I can get there, but I don't really want to fight a Firestorm Machaka at this point in the mid game. I'm willing to, but I don't want to. So we go ahead and sign that peace agreement. Now, a Firestorm trap, I do think for Machaka is somewhat tricky to do, if I remember right. I don't think they took fire resistance on their blast, so they would burn their own spiders in the process. So there is a situation where we could potentially build an army that sits under Firestorm better than their army. And if they're relying on Banefire, I do think we can kill them. We'll just take attrition. And we do have our Unholy Weapons bless that just woke up. So those sleep vines would hit those spiders really hard if they're not webbed up properly. And if we do win a battle, it'll probably be a pretty complete victory because the spiders have the Berserker Bless. And there's some things that we can potentially do later in the game. For instance, I wonder if Foul Vapors will trigger Berserker. There's also, if we do break into the lightest of blood at some point, we could try to do Bloodletting to trigger Berserker on a lot of his stuff, especially before maybe it gets buffed up. But yeah, I don't think we're at so much of a disadvantage that we can't fight Machaka. So I think the most ruthless version of me probably takes this war. And I think we could have some potential to do reasonably well in it. Now, they were threatening a potential third coalition partner. I was convinced this was Scalaria. They didn't say anything one way or the other, but Scalaria was my biggest fear. If Scalaria also attacked me, I think I'd just die. Now, if it was End, that's a little bit different. And future me knows that it likely was End. And the reason why is once End and Machaka take this stuff, then it's a very narrow front line for quite some time. Like they have to rotate through like 2 province wide fronts all the way around this lake until they can get to my capital. So that means it's a very doom-stacky front line, which could be extremely brutal for me, but also means that I could probably rally the mage support I need. And it would be very close to my production centers. And a potential war with Nidavellir, I could advance pretty quickly, potentially. But I do end up taking this peace agreement. Jungle Man's thinking about making a series out of this, so it probably would be fun if I don't murder him right after a pretty big attrition event. See him get later in the game. I played with Green Guy before, who's the Machaka player, and he was the Calum in the LA Satis series. So, I don't know, they're fun to chat with. It could be fun seeing them later in the game. So we'll see how that goes. We'll see if it bites me in the butt. A 3v1 could potentially do me in. A 2v1, maybe I could manage at this point. But if I don't have to manage it, then I'm not going to. My other expansion options include potentially vulturing Calum, which would be a lot easier than fighting a 2 or 3v1. Could end up fighting End. I do think I could kill End, although it could be quite bloody. End, I believe, can do Gifts from Heaven communions and Banishment communions. That would do a lot of damage. And then we've got Shiniyama, who I think I could really vulture quite heavily, or backstab quite heavily while he's fighting Abyssia, but he's already had to deal with the 2v1 a bit, so I'm not going to do that to him. So right now we're just going to think about vulturing Calum, and then maybe fighting End if vulturing Calum doesn't become a thing. And we're going to, aside from moving combat mages around all the time, we're going to continue trying to ramp up research. So we're up to almost 1600 RP. We're almost at construction 7. So 2 turns away from that. And then we're going for conjuration 8. Because I've started talking to Machaka about putting up Well of Misery, maybe splitting that with him, since we have a little bit of a split for Mother Oak. Because, yeah, Well of Misery here. And Well of Misery does a couple of things for me. So the death income is nice, but the worldwide growth scales would be amazing. So +2 growth scales, a lot of the nations in this game did take growth. And putting them at growth scales where maybe forests start spreading within their own dominion sounds amazing. So Calum doesn't have growth, but Shinyama has growth 2, so that would put them at growth 4. Nidavellir has growth 2, that would put them at growth 4. And Machaka, I think, has growth 3, potentially, or maybe, yeah, that's not my dominion. Although it kind of looks like it. So maybe he just rapidly got his dominion here and the scales haven't shifted yet. But if Machaka's also got growth, then that could put him at like growth 5. The more forests in the world, the better, because if I do get Well of Misery and it stays up for a bit and we get a bunch more forests, I think the end game that I'm going to try to angle for is Enchanted Forests, because that would do a lot to spread my dominion further. I would get a lot of indie attacks potentially. That would, I guess they're credited to me. So it'd be a lot of heavy rating pressure to go with my normal mannequin groups. And it could, if my dominion starts popping up in more places, I could start seeing even more terrain changes into forests. And that would just snowball the effect. So I think that's a really fun in-game to try and angle for. And if I can get people to not dispel it right away, that would also be pretty great. There's also a lot I can do with death gems. So I'm a high death nation. So I can also aim for doing, I think it's here. I can aim for Lichcraft. So a D3 Panic with a Skull Staff can with, I guess with both boosters. So as long as I get a D4 at some point, either through Twiceborn, getting the level from that, or from maybe some other means, I don't know. But as long as I get a D4 in some way, right now I'm thinking Twiceborn, then I can make the second death booster, and then any D3 panic, I can cast Lichcraft, and then I'll have a D4 immortal. And that sounds amazing. So that's one of the things I'm looking at with that death income. The other thing I'm looking at with that death income is Ghost Riders. So Ghost Riders is a pretty great spell. It's cheap, but you need the casters for it. So Lichcraft should come first. So that, because a Lich with a Skull Staff can cast Ghost Riders. And you get a Wraith Lord leading 75 Long Dead Horsemen. So you can do a lot of raiding and gym baiting with this spell. So I'm starting to put together maybe a potential in-game that I want to play for and see how it works. But I'm going to need a lot of death income to pull that off, and I'm going to need to save my nature gems. All right, so that's what we're aiming for here. So I think right now I am, yeah, so I've got Shambler skins on 2 of these guys, so I'm thinking about sending them under and drowning them in Baptizer. Start rolling for those D4s. So I think that's it for turn 38. believe that summarizes the Diplo. So we're still at peace. And I will see you guys in the next one. I guess really quick we can show how the army graph is recovering as well. Have a good one. Bye.